From sudden blackout to skies lit with unexplainable lights, from double suns to spirals and fog that shouldn't exist.
The weirdest part is the taste and smell. It smells like after you set off a bunch of fireworks.
The world is showing signs no one can fully explain.
What the is that?
These moments weren't random. Watch closely because something hidden is shaping our skies.
Oh yeah, freak, that was insane.
And maybe even our future. It began on a quiet night in Mexico, the kind of night when the streets settle and the sky holds a strange stillness. November 11th had almost come to a close when the lights across entire cities blinked once, then went dark. The clock stopped at the same moment, 11:11 p.m. People stepped out of their homes, holding their phones like tiny torches, and looked up to a sky that didn't feel normal. Over Puebla, Tijuana, and several other regions, the clouds carried a deep red glow. Nothing normal. The government statement arrived quickly. A power issue, nothing more. But anyone who saw what happened that night knew there was more to the story. Thunder doesn't move in perfect rhythm. Storms don't flash in neat intervals. This light was different. It felt controlled, almost planned. Videos from that night rolled across social media. A man in Mexico City posted a clip with the timestamp clear, 11:11 p.m. on November 11th. His camera caught the neighborhood flickering on and off, like someone playing with a switch. Some said maybe it was a storm. Others said it looked like a trailer for a series trying to get attention. But people who lived through that night insisted the glow was real and far too synchronized to be anything harmless. A few days earlier, in early November, a woman named Maria had recorded something similar. Her clip showed red lightning in the clouds, almost like waves. A low humming sound rolled through the area, and her camera picked up round shapes drifting across the sky. Locals called them orbs, and while many brushed them off as lens reflections, others believed the shapes had been appearing for months. Digging deeper, more recordings surfaced. Different cities, same strange pattern. Lights flickering above the clouds. The rhythm didn't match thunder, storms, or normal power trouble. It looked almost like a coded signal moving across the sky, repeating the same beat. And while Mexico had the most attention, it soon became clear that the blackout wave didn't stop there.
Massive power cuts in Spain and Portugal have caused chaos, with trains unable to run, phone services out, and tens of millions of people impacted.
Just months earlier, on April 28, 2025, something strange hit the Iberian Peninsula. At 12:33 p.m. CEST, the power across mainland Portugal and a large part of Spain went out without warning. Entire regions went quiet for nearly 10 hours. And some areas stayed dark even longer. The official reason mentioned technical trouble.
After blackouts on Saturday and Sunday in Cannes and Nice, respectively, disrupted daily life and critical infrastructure. On Saturday, a fire at an electrical substation near Cannes caused a blackout affecting approximately 160,000 households.
But many residents reported bright flashes above the clouds minutes before everything went dark. Several witnesses from northern Spain said they saw a soft red glow drifting across the horizon, the same kind of glow seen in Mexico. The timing was different, but the pattern felt familiar. After this, researchers online began to create maps connecting locations and dates. A weird pattern emerged. The blackout in Mexico happened at 11:11 on the 11th day. Spain's blackout hit at 12:33, another repeating number. People wondered if these times were just random or if they meant something. The idea spread that maybe these outages weren't accidents at all, but tests. Something or someone checking how quickly a country could be plunged into darkness. Soon, past events began resurfacing. The year before, 2024, had already been filled with massive outages around the world.
But it's unclear yet how long it will take for it to be fully restored, with warnings it may be up to a week.
Strange darkness touched other parts of the US as well. In 2024, Florida was the first to face it. Entire neighborhoods went silent without warning, and people reported unusual humming in the air just seconds before everything shut down. The same sound many remembered from Mexico. Then Texas followed. Millions lost light in an instant, but locals said the darkness arrived before anything unusual happened around them. Videos soon appeared online showing bright white flashes hidden behind thick clouds, almost like timed pulses moving across the sky. By late 2024, Southern California joined the list. Hundreds of thousands were left without power, and witnesses described calm, circular glows drifting above the city. Too steady, too smooth, too controlled. When all these events were added together, Mexico, Spain, Florida, Texas, California, the pattern became harder to ignore. Some online communities began piecing together their own theories. They believed someone, or some group, was studying how the world responds when the lights go out. Not just one country, not just one continent, but globally. Then a story surfaced that made everything even more unsettling. A report mentioned a new type of device created for disabling power grids within seconds. No explosions, no smoke, just a silent wave that passes through wires and shuts everything down. It was said to be powerful enough to affect entire cities at once. Suddenly, the events in Mexico didn't feel random. The flickering in Spain didn't feel accidental. The storms in the United States didn't seem like simple weather trouble. It seemed like the world wasn't dealing with natural incidents at all. Maybe a silent message from a hidden hand guiding something larger. Silent web collapse. The blackout wave didn't end with the skies. It quietly shifted into the digital world, and this time it hit one of the strongest pillars of the modern internet.
A massive outage Tuesday of the internet software company Cloudflare, disrupting online shopping sites, chatbots, and more than one social media platform. This comes less than a month after the Amazon Web Services outage that impacted thousands of companies.
On November 18th, 2025, Cloudflare, the backbone that keeps thousands of websites safe and running, suddenly slipped into silence. It wasn't a small glitch. Entire platforms froze. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, ChatGPT, and countless others stopped loading at the same moment, leaving millions staring at the same blank errors that spread across screens worldwide. Down Detector itself, the tool people use to check outages, froze briefly, as if the blackout swallowed even the systems meant to monitor it. When it returned, reports shot up to 11,500 spikes in the US alone, showing just how widespread the disruption was. Cloudflare announced the cause quickly. A latent bug triggered during a routine configuration, crashing a core protection system. Engineers said it wasn't an attack, just an internal fault that spread across their global network like falling dominoes.
I think that what is happening is a handful of providers is struggling to keep up with the demand of the last 5 to 10 years that has just increased exponentially online.
But for many, that explanation only made things stranger. How could a routine update silence such a massive part of the internet within minutes? And why did so many unrelated platforms fall at the same exact moment?
On Capitol Hill, Democratic Senators Ron Wyden and Mark Warner are leading calls for the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, to maintain minimum cybersecurity standards for America's communications sector.
Experts pointed out something unsettling. The internet depends heavily on only a few major networks. If one of them slips, the entire web can collapse in seconds. Amazon's AWS outage just a month before had already shown this weakness, disrupting platforms like Coinbase, Signal, Lyft, and major news outlets. Even worse, last year's global issue caused by a faulty update crashed countless Windows systems across the world. Each incident pulled back the curtain a little more, showing how fragile the digital world truly is. Yet the odd part wasn't just the outages, it was the timing. Within the same global window, reports came in that foreign travelers inside Russia were facing a 24-hour blackout of mobile internet and SMS on their SIM cards.
Officials described it security buffer, preventing SIM cards from being integrated into what they called hostile remote control devices.
Officials said it was a cooling off period, but the overlap with Cloudflare's collapse raised new questions. Why were multiple digital systems across different regions experiencing disruptions so close together? People began stitching the pattern together. The sky went red. Cities went dark. Then, one of the biggest web guardians fell down. It looked more like a test, one that someone, somewhere, was running on a global scale. Northern Lights mystery. After the confusion that followed the Mexico blackout and the Cloudflare collapse, people were already uneasy. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for whatever came next. And only a few days earlier, on November 6th, another sign arrived.
Maybe possible to see the northern lights out there tonight, so go ahead, heads up, pay attention. We're going to be looking at a pretty significant geomagnetic storm hitting the planet, and it's giving us a rare chance to see the aurora this far south. I want to emphasize, not with your eyes, with a camera.
That night, a soft purple glow spread over Florida and other southern states of the United States. It wasn't bright or loud. It moved quietly, almost gently, but something about it felt out of place. The color wasn't the usual northern light shade people had seen in pictures. It looked heavier, almost controlled, as if it had been placed there rather than formed naturally. Many stepped outside, holding their phones up, speaking in low tones, because the atmosphere felt tense in a way no one could describe.
The sun is really active right now. You can see that huge one right there. That's the culprit. That's what's causing that huge storm.
Weather reports tried to settle the moment by blaming it on a geomagnetic storm. But people who had been following the recent events didn't buy that so easily. The sun had been active before, but never in a way that turned the sky into a steady purple sheet. Around the same time, radio hobbyists across the country reported strange repeating pulses in their receivers. These signals began shortly before the glow appeared and ended the moment the sky returned to normal. None of them had ever heard anything like it. As the glow faded, one thought settled over people watching. Whatever was creating these signs was slowly getting bolder, and this wasn't the final one. Blue beam signs. Next is this new pattern that began to rise, one that conspiracy circles had warned about for years. Project Bluebeam, once treated as a wild idea, was now gaining attention again. People remembered the old claims: unusual lights in the sky, sudden flashes, controlled beams that seemed to come from nowhere. And now, as these incidents resurfaced, the older warnings began to feel less like stories and more like instructions we ignored. 3 months ago in Columbus, an anonymous Reddit user shared this clip of a bright blue beam dropping straight from the clouds. No explanation, just one clip that looked too clean to dismiss. People gathered around to record it, calling it a laser test, but the angle made no sense. To those paying attention, it felt like the first sign that something planned was moving into the open, but the pattern didn't start there. It had been building quietly for years. In February 2023, during a heavy storm in Utah, drivers heading south recorded the entire sky lighting up in a deep blue flash. The road, the mountains, the clouds, everything turned the same shade for a few seconds. They thought they would see whatever caused it, but nothing appeared. Just one intense burst of color, and then silence.
Whoa! Did you see all those lights just come back on? Yeah, freak. That was insane.
People argued over it being a transformer issue, but the scale of the glow didn't match that explanation. Even earlier, in 2018, New York had its own moment. A blue light filled the skies above Manhattan and Queens, sweeping through the city like a wave. Authorities blamed a malfunction at a power plant, but locals still remember how the sky looked. Too wide, too bright, too clean. And not just the US. In 2024, a man filmed his son playing outside in Rochester when the sky flashed blue again, quick but powerful. Each moment felt separate at the time. Now, placed together, they form a pattern, steady, intentional, and growing. And as these blue flashes return with almost the same calm precision, a quiet thought is spreading among those who follow these signs. Maybe these lights aren't signals for us, but for those extraterrestrials already here, watching from above. Fog veil. Next, we have this very famous fog conspiracy. It began in Los Angeles on February 3rd, 2025. Before sunrise, the city that usually glowed from miles away was swallowed by a thick fog, unlike the usual coastal mist. It felt heavy, almost intentional, as if the sky was lowering itself onto the streets. People stepped outside expecting cool winter air, but instead found a blanket so dense it muted sound and sight at the same time. Soon, this wasn't just an LA concern. Tennessee, Georgia, even regions in Australia reported the same deep fog drifting in. Some residents said the air felt strange, carrying a faint scent they couldn't name.
But the weirdest part is the taste and smell. It smells like you set off a bunch of fireworks. The taste of the air is, the only word I can think of is toxic.
Others stayed indoors, uneasy about breathing it at all. Experts tried explaining it with industry emissions and shifting weather patterns. But the same fog forming in far-off places made those explanations feel thin. Then things moved from unsettling to unbelievable. After the fog passed through smaller towns, residents noticed thin hair-like strands rising from the soil, glistening with morning dew. People filmed them swaying in the still air, unsure if they were fungal threads, altered microbes, or something influenced by the fog itself.
So, yesterday and today is really, really foggy. And I see hair growing out of the cat poo on the ground.
Researchers offered cautious guesses, but none could explain why these strands appeared only after the strange mist. For many, it no longer looked like scattered weather events. The blue lights, the sudden outages, and now this dense fog all felt connected, as if something overhead was slowly shaping the air we live in. And with each passing sighting, one quiet thought moved through every mind that maybe the world is ending or something bigger is about to come. Sky under control. Right after the strange fog events, the story of our skies took another sharp turn, this time pointing toward the one conspiracy people whisper about more than any other: HARP. For years, folks claimed it could bend weather, shift clouds, and pulse frequencies through the air. Most shrugged it off, but the sightings that followed made those old claims feel uncomfortably real. It started in October 2025 over Pakistan. People stepped outside expecting an ordinary night, only to see a silver-white spiral drifting across the sky. It wasn't slow like a flare, and it wasn't fast like a plane. It moved with a steady, engineered precision. Some online users tied it to an unconfirmed test near Balochistan, but no officials said a word. The silence only made the spiral feel more planned. Not long after, Chicago had its own strange moment. Drivers on the 294 froze when they saw something floating above the freeway, a cluster of bright shapes holding completely still, not drifting, not falling, just hovering. Moments later, rain began out of nowhere. Many said the timing felt too controlled, almost like the sky responded to something unseen. Then an old clip resurfaced, a HARP experiment from Alaska showing how frequency waves could ripple across a lake, shaping the water like it was responding to commands. That video was 20 years old. People wondered what modern versions of that experiment might look like in the sky instead of a lake. Around the same time, Salvador and Brazil heard a deep rolling sound pushing through the clouds. Followed by reports from New Jersey describing radios hijacked by unknown signals. Viewers linked the noises to aerial craft, military frequencies, or something conducting tests above populated areas. Soon after, multiple states reported strange lines slicing through clouds, straight, perfect paths, too geometric for natural weather. Believers said HARP was pushing waves into the atmosphere, spreading engineered haze across entire horizons. Skeptics blamed contrails, but the patterns formed too quickly and lasted far too long. Then came the incident that shook everyone, a massive circular opening in the clouds, like a clean doorway cut above a quiet road.
Bro, what's that? What's that?
Some called it a fall streak hole. Others said the clouds moved as if they were vibrating, stretching outward, pulled by something invisible. One event after another, the timeline lined up. Silent spirals, floating shapes, vibrating skies, hijacked signals, clouds carved open like paper. And slowly, a new thought settled in. If someone can control the air above us, then they can control far more than the weather. They can control what we believe is real. Second sun. Last but not least is this sun conspiracy. People began turning their eyes upward again, this time toward the one thing we always believed was constant: the sun. What they saw next pulled the conspiracy thread even tighter. On November 13th, 2025, a man standing outside his home noticed something unusual in the sky. The sun wasn't giving off its usual warm glow. Instead, it had two sharp rays cutting out from its sides, almost like beams from a spotlight. People online questioned whether this was a lens issue, but the man insisted he saw it with his naked eye.
Unbelievable. This is not magnified. Magnified. Very good.
Then came June 2025 in Florida. Dozens of residents stepped outside to film a bright red circular object near the sunset.
And that's not the sun. That can't be the sun because the sunset is over there and the moon is up here.
Some called it Nibiru. Others whispered about a second sun. Viewers argued if it was the real sun or something else entirely. But one thing stood out. It was too large, too red, and too separate from the normal sunset. Then NASA released data from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. A giant, butterfly-shaped hole had opened in the sun's atmosphere, nearly 500,000 kilometers across. Scientists explained it calmly, calling it a natural solar event. But people remembered the recent sightings and the strange glow from months earlier. If the sun was truly stable, why were these massive openings forming without warning? For many, the timeline felt too neat. The beams, the red orb, the double suns, the enormous solar gap, each event stacking on top of the last. And with every sighting, a quiet fear began spreading. What if the sun we look at each morning isn't what it used to be? Or worse, what if the real one isn't even the one we're seeing anymore? As each clue rises above us, the story grows harder to ignore. Something is moving quietly through our skies, leaving signs for those who look up and notice what isn't supposed to be there. What if the world we are living in is not even real? What do you guys think about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't forget to watch more conspiratorial videos coming up next. Thank you once again.